live on Twitch as well. Fantastic. No, we are live. We are recording. So that's
Yay!
fantastic. Yes, a big hello to everyone out there. Yeah. So I'll do my little intro and then rock into it. Fantastic. Welcome back to the Coaches to the Moon podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with Nichole Hamilton today, a very busy lady, so much so that I've had to write down all of her qualifications and all of her jobs in a little intro here. So Nichole is a hypnotherapist, play therapist for children, empowerment coach, workshop facilitator, Reiki Master and Teacher, NDIS Support Worker, mum of 3, and pole dancing instructor. Nichole Hamilton, thank you so much for being here on the podcast.
Wow, what an introduction. I forget all the things I do sometimes.
Did I miss anything out?
I don't think so. I think that's probably enough. There probably is more, but I can't think of it now.
Well, that's plenty for now. How does it feel seeing all your accomplishments laid out like that?
I feel very proud. Yeah. Just give myself gratitude that my body's carried me through and I've, achieved that much so far.
100%. No, it's really, really impressive. You're an impressive lady, and I'm very excited to have you here. So we are a coaching and business podcast first and foremost, and I really want to get into how you've been able to grow a business that does cater largely to children and teens. But for a bit of context, can you break down how you got started working with kids and how that's developed over the past few years?
Yeah, beautiful. So, I first started studying holistic therapies for myself, for my own issues, and we can go into that if you want them, but that's okay. But my son was diagnosed at 5 as autism, ASD. And it was a really tricky time because I noticed these different things. He's my second child, so he's the middle child now. And, I babied him at the time, did things for him and didn't realize that he was actually, behind the curve. And is very energetically aware and wouldn't bond to a lot of people. He would actually have selective mutism. And so it became so apparent to me to have safe people around him that he wanted to connect to learn from, because he wasn't going to take anything in. He wasn't going to learn or share if he didn't feel safe. And so I was doing all these mad, all those qualifications you listed, doing them. And for some reason, every time I come home, I would actually use some of these, hypnotherapy, NLP, Reiki. I'd use them on my own kids. And it developed from there. And then I had other, friends and clients ask me to start working with their kids. And every time the intuition and the download just dropped in, and the kids, number one, would pick me to want to work with them, and but creating that love and that safe space for them, it just progressed from there. And I have an affinity. And if you told me 10 years ago I'd work with kids, I wouldn't have believed you. But now it literally lights me up when a kid gets something, or they pick me, or they want to give me a hug, and you've made that impact on their life because they get it. Oh, it's a different genre of coaching. Like when an adult gets something, great, but when a kid gets it, oh, it's to the moon and back.
That's amazing. I bet seeing that light come on when something clicks, that must be fantastic. And it's really cool that you got into it just from walking the walk yourself, and then other people realizing that you were doing that and having effect on your own son. So that's fantastic. How have you seen it help him over the years?
Oh, it's just amazing. So he is a little energetic healer. He would jump on in for meditations. He's not Reiki attuned, but he would put hands on you if you needed it, and just energetically picked up on that loving space and that growth, and was always curious. Didn't ask a lot of questions, but he's a very observant watcher. So, I've been to healers and hypnotherapists over the time, and he would just pick up on things, and next minute you would see him just, adding that to his routine or something. And it's like, wow, they really are little sponges. So it becomes so important to nourish them with that kind of that community. He's 12 now, and he is addicted to the ice baths, the meditation, the breath work. And even in the short space of time of him doing that, because he's a reserved ASD. He's not a ADHD. He's not very extroverted. But he's talking more. He's communicating better, and he loves the challenge of going, breathing through the ice a little bit longer, and being around all those people. It does have a really good impact. It shows them, what it means to have real, genuine people in your corner that can, love and support you.
Wow, that is hectic. That is so, so great to hear. It's funny, like, I honestly, hand on the heart, never really got into those conversations hearing people talk about their kids. Now, as a dad, it's like, oh my God, tell me more about your kids. I'm so interested in the whole journey. And so that's really, really cool. And ice baths as well. I see them on your Facebook all the time doing these ice baths, kind of looking at the ocean. What a concept. That sounds like the best thing ever.
It is.
And the worst
beautiful.
simultaneously.
Oh yeah, it's good. It is so good. There's so many benefits of that. But yeah, I think it's also just coming back to that. There's a lot of coaches in that community. There's a lot of like-minded people that are we're building that community of people that want to get out there and help others, and showing your kids that, just being in that environment, regardless of whether you're having them coached, just showing them. And there's so many parents bringing their kids to these events and showing them that we can meditate, we can breathe, we can ground, we can, ice bath if that's the thing. And that's a different generation. It's completely different to how I was raised.
100%. My dad still doesn't understand my job at all. That's fine. It's but let's talk about that, what you just said. So the parents bringing the kids to these events, because obviously a huge part of coaching is the sale, is the emotional reason for that person to commit money and time to take you on your service. And I imagine often with yourself, when you're working with a child or an NDIS recipient, like someone on disability support, you are not breaching the topic of money with the client or that participant. You're actually breaching that topic with the parent or the carer.
Correct.
So how does that process usually go down, and how do you find the most effective way to bring on a new client when they're not actually the one you're talking to?
Well, I guess like you said, you're a dad now. So, if you saw your kid struggling, emotionally, having some kind of behaviors, you're the one that's curious about it. So, the parent obviously is the first point of contact. And being a mum myself, I can really relate to seeing what the kids struggle with. It could be, social anxiety. There's the whole gaming philosophy now, where kids don't want to leave their bedrooms. So if you talk about something that's relevant to them, that lights something up. And then we go into the specifics and, ask them, and it doesn't have to be a client that's on NDIS. It could just be a parent that's struggling with some behaviors with their child or emotional regulation. I get a lot of families that have gone through marriage breakdowns, DV, addiction, and their children have got traumas from that. So they don't even need a diagnosis, and they want just some of that holistic space for their child to unpack some of the things that they've seen or felt. So yeah, 100% always the parent. The parent has the curiosity. They're like, oh my God, they either feel like their child needs something, or they feel guilty, or they feel like they're struggling. So parent will go search for something. And then once we've struck that conversation, and this is what I teach in my modality, so I'm not going to go into too much, but I empower the child and I create a space where they can pick you. And no other practitioner does that. No other practitioner does that. Okay, nobody does it.
So let's talk about that, because coaching someone who doesn't want to be coached, dead end, right? So a parent telling me to do something as a kid, even at the age of 30, I'm like, no, why would I do that for you? So what's your process of, without going into too much detail and giving away your modalities for free? Well, how did you come across this process of allowing the kid to choose you? And is there like a macro description you can give us?
Yeah. So again, I believe it's intuitive. I learned all this stuff, in the coaching world, and it just downloaded to me to want to connect to a child. And, that approach was, because the child doesn't have a want or a monetary investment. So you've got to get them to invest into you. You've got to get them to want it. And so by, letting them interview you, they don't get to pick their teachers, their psychologists, their doctors. And I teach a whole way of how to really genuinely lovingly connect to a child and give them that opportunity. But you also have to have a tough skin, because if a kid's going to say no, that's great too. If I'm not the right person for that child, and I tell them that, straight up, if I'm not the right person, I will find someone better. And in 9 years that I've been doing this, only one child has said no, and I've worked with hundreds now. And that child, he wanted a male, like he did. He really wanted that male role figure, and that's cool. I found that for him. But I've had kids come running to my door. They don't even get to the car, and they're like, I want to work with you. And, that lights me up, because then I know it doesn't matter what happens in that next stage of sessions, the kids feel so comfortable and so trusting that they're going to bring their stuff to you. And it's different with nonverbal kids as well, but there's so many different ways to do it. But letting a child be empowered to have a choice, number one, that's the key, 100%.
Yeah, empowering people who don't usually get any power or responsibility. Huge, right? It's even in running a team, in running a team, if you have someone who's underperforming, either because they're nervous or they are lazy or not confident, or they're a bit of a bad apple, putting that person in charge of a project and giving them that extra level of responsibility, they often step up so much. So that's really cool that you've discovered that with the kids. It's fascinating. It's such a fascinating job. When I told people about the person I was having on the podcast today, they were like, I'm listening to that one.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Really, really cool.
I'm so excited to see if people are interested, because that's the other thing, we actually need more coaches to work with children. How many, and you've obviously been doing this a long time, how many coaches are there for adults? How many?
Too many.
That's right. And how many are there for kids?
Never met one.
Well, there you go.
Never met one who calls himself a coach.
Yeah, so we want to get out there, away from, and I'm not saying that the medical practitioners and the OTs and speeches don't serve their purpose. They do, but that real connection that you get with a coach. You've had coaches yourself, when they believe in you and they love you and they inspire you. We need people like that for kids, because they literally, like you said before, don't listen to their parents. You can love and inspire them and tell them things in one ear out the other. They need to feel safe with other adults that actually see them. And that's just so special. You can't put a price on that. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I feel when I was a kid, I would be much more likely to tell secrets, or if I'd gotten in trouble with like the law or anything, to tell my friends' parents rather than myself. There was always that one mate's mum who was the one you kind of call.
You could,
get you a taxi home if you've been thrown out of a club or something like that kind of thing. So that's super interesting. So let's move on to that part of your job, which is helping parents and coaching kids, because you've got this coaching certification that you're now creating for adults, which you touched on before. This is kind of your modalities. This is your methods you've helped hundreds of kids with. You're now creating a business around that. Tell us about what you're doing.
So I started subcontracting and having other people take on, the things that I had no longer time for. And I just realized that, that there is potential to teach people what I know. It's been downloading to me, and I believe it from the divine for a really long time. And, I've been around probably thousands of coaches, over my time, I've seen them go through all the schools, and I've never seen one take what we've learned, as a collective, and play with it with kids. And so I was like, this is a thing, I've been doing it for a long time now. Let's teach it. Let's see if we can, create a new momentum to work with kids. And it's, it's so funny, because us in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, we're always going back to our inner child. We're always going back to those things. And I think, wow, why not empower them now? So if we can, and all the, these coaches as well, they've got all the knowledge. It's just, how do you break it down? And if you had a passion for kids, how do you make that a game? So, you're not going to sit there and do a full timeline therapy or inner child work with a child, but you can play with them. You can bring it to them in some sort of way, in some sort of game. And that's how I teach it. I break it down and give them case studies of, well, this client came with this, and how did we work on bedwetting? How did we work on, not having a father figure? How did we work on, behavioral anger issues? Like what games and mind maps did I do in those sessions? So let's start teaching it, so that people have more skills when it comes to working with children.
Huge. And so I imagine that'd be great for not only people looking to do it as a business, but also, as you said, curious parents who don't know
Parents, yeah.
what they're up against.
It's made me a better parent, like hand on my heart, and I'm not perfect. I still do my lives when I've had a bad day. But, I really have that space now because I can hold space for my own children, to unpack things, to talk about it a different way. When they were really little, especially my eldest, he was great. We used to play games in the car with the hypno ranting, and he would rant me back, and we'd use positive language and why is that? And that's, just it was really, really fun. But it's games that parents could learn to, instead of having, that naggy kid like, but why, you can make a whole game around it, a whole language game, and you're anchoring in such positive behaviors, emotions, whatever you want to do with it. And I think it's great skill set for parents too.
Sounds unbelievably important. Super duper cool. I think I think I'd like to do it, preemptively, proactively, before any touch wood issues come out with the girls, but they obviously will. There's always issues with everyone, right? Everyone's got their own stuff. But I feel
I say it, and are we allowed to swear on this podcast? We all fuck up our kids, right? And,
Sure.
Our parents did. It's not intentional. We've all got our own shit, and being vulnerable as parents as well, parent to parent, we can talk like that and go, hey, that's cool though. That happened, but now where to,
Yeah.
And then as your kids are the best mirror of you, like so good. So if you are an angry person, your kid's going to be feisty as anything, and they're going to throw it back at you, and you're like, oh, okay, now it's time to like work on this stuff. So yeah, if you're preempting it and starting to work on yourself, you are setting them the best example. And the other thing is asking for help. I always tell my parents, like I tell the parents of the kids that I work with, I end up normally working with a lot of mums and parents and doing some family sessions too, because if the kids see that the parents are asking for help too, then you're setting such a good precedent for later on in life. Things are always going to happen to everybody's journey, but they'll remember, we all got help. We had that person that came in and they were really fun and helped us through this or blah, blah, blah. So it's such a good, just setting that example.
So good. So good. I plug it. What's the name of it? What's the name of the certification?
Yeah, so it's Children's Safe Space. It's children's coaching certification. So CSS, we abbreviate that CSS, and it's the Children's certification program. So
awesome.
Really
and so
good.
what's been, you're launching your first round of it.
Yeah, first round is midway. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, from a kind of a business point of view, what's been the best and the worst thing about productizing your own methods, and kind of what should anybody out there watch out for if they're thinking of doing the same thing?
Good question. So I would say the best thing is that, it's legitimately lighting me up, sharing the things that I'm so passionate about and being able to share those skill sets with other coaches. Like that is the absolute best thing. And to see other people light up when they're learning it, that is the best thing. The worst thing is having nothing to compare it to, so you're like working through it. So I had to kind of put that out of my mind and just be in the moment and write it as I'm going. So, if there's changes that needed to be made, not be too hard on myself. And then, I'm actually learning along the way. Like I do have to be a little bit stricter in some parts, maybe, have some boundaries because I want this to be a certification program. So, there is always little tweaks. So when you run something for the first time, not to be too hard on yourself, just take it as it comes. It's teaching you as well.
Sure thing. And that's a great way to do it, right? Kind of learning as you go, not trying to perfect this whole thing before you launch it, because then you may get it.
Well, probably would never have launched it. I had that fear, like, is this enough? Or, what do I have? And then I was like, I just have to get out of the way because, I've been doing this for years with kids intuitively. Let's just run this, write it as it goes. And now the training booklet is just looking amazing. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I guess the scary thing you just said, you got to certify people. You may have to fail someone.
Oh, correct. I'm being a little bit strict on it now because, I've got there was a few days live to start with to really build the momentum. It was weekly Zooms and recorded, of course, because some people, but that's the thing, I'm now setting tasking and homeworks and to show that they're actually putting in the hours work, because if I can't see it, I'm not going to certify. And the main thing with this program is I've actually just put a post about it. So if there's anybody in South Australia that's watching this, I'm offering free sessions to kids at the end. So I want to see my coaches with children for me to certify that they're actually following the modality and inspiring and empowering and connecting with these kids on the level that I would, if not better. I want them to be better, So that's what we're doing. And so I'm bringing kids in, and they will be working with kids. And if they can't do that, then of course, but I believe in all my students. They will get there. They will get there.
Well, with that attitude, I'm sure they will. With that attitude, I'm sure they will. It's really, really cool setting them out there into the world, doing free sessions, kind of like when I was learning to be a chef and we had a free restaurant at the TAFE, and we cooked for real customers, and they'd be coming in knowing that we were like second year apprentices and that maybe some of these people had never worked in a restaurant before, but you learn so much about yourself when you're in the field. Theory is one thing, execution is a whole other thing.
Oh, and kids will not lie. They are going to be the best audience. They will be the best. It's not like an adult, when we've done maybe our coaching sessions, when you've, partnered up with an adult, you kind of play along a little. You're like, oh, I'll give this guy a go. Kids not going to give you a go. They're going to be 100% honest. So it's I can't wait to give you some feedback on that when that's actually happened. It should be good.
No, that'd be fun. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. But as we talked about, this massive movement, I imagine this should be a huge movement, what you're creating. This is just one leg of your career, this empire that you're building, where, as we said at the beginning, you've got fitness coaching, holistic healing, one-on-one NDIS work. There's a big idea in business that, to get anywhere, you've got to go, inch wide, mile deep. That is to just focus on one thing and be really, really good at it. You have all these different fingers in different pies, and they're all achieving varying levels of success. What sort of, at least a certain degree of success, they're all working and still going, which is fantastic. Yes. So, I mean, what sort of feedback could you give to anyone who, like me, struggles to stay focused on one thing and maybe wants to try their hand at a bunch of stuff at the same time?
Get a coach.
Yeah.
Get a coach. Well, my coach keeps me focused, because otherwise I'd probably be doing 20 more things. I have a need for variety. It's in my mindset. And, and sometimes I do get distracted, and that's not a good thing. So being mindful that that I do have that need for variation. I am a manifesting generator. That's great. But, I literally can't shed myself too thin, because otherwise nobody's going to get 100%. So I really have to pick things and listen to my fuck yeses and my fuck no's, because I need to make sure that I'm really giving 100% to those things. So a few things have had to be culled over the time. Is my heart really still in that? Do I want to do this? That's why I've got some subcontractors underneath as well. And it will, and just be open to change. You have to be in business. You can't, have your mind stuck on any one way, because in business things change. I've been in business since 2009, and it's completely changed since then.
In what way?
I started off as a beauty therapist. I just wanted to help people, and so I'm not waxing vaginas anymore. I'm helping people on the inside. So well, that's it. So, but it's different, and I always knew I wanted to help people, and that's when I started studying, and it just rolled into a bit of Reiki, a bit of hands-on healing, massage, and then it's gone into that full mindset. And then from working from the adults, finding that that my niche was working with children. So being able to be flexible and really follow your passions is the biggest thing.
It's so funny how setting a plan in business very seldom actually works out the way you think it's going to. And like you said, you started working with adults, and then you by accident started working with kids, and that became the big thing for you. And you said you never thought you would have. So, I mean, what's the main kind of outcome you want for your certification? How big would you like it to go?
I would love it. I mean, my coach would say, worldwide, but I would say nationwide. The NDIS scheme in Australia is so beautiful. Not, and I've worked for a lot of, corporate organizations, education as well. And we really want heart-centered approach. So, I think that this could definitely be an Australia-wide program where we can have so many beautiful coaches, that can work under that framework, the NDIS and themselves as well. But yeah, I could definitely see it running in every single state, running it across. So
that's mad. We'll see what direction it goes in.
Mm.
As times change, as the world meanders around us, and your kids grow up. You've got a new baby now. Your baby's about the same age as mine, little younger than mine.
15 months. Yours are 18 months.
Yeah. So that's
keep me on my toes, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I forgot. Nichole has a relatively young baby as well. So
yeah, Aurora.
All this stuff together, you're just an absolute monster.
And you know what's so good about that is the difference in noticing my older boys and her. So she was with us at the event last night, and she follows me around. Like, she energetically connects with every single person because she sees me and her mum do it.
Yeah.
It's just what she's been brought up with. She was around that from, she was at holistic courses when she was 2 months old. So she's grown up around that energy, and that just makes such a difference for kids when they're around that good energy and those different tribes of people.
Super exciting. I'm very, very proud of you, Nichole. I'm very proud to know you and to have you on the podcast and just see what happens for you. It's going to be great. So what's the best place to find you? Because you're everywhere.
I am, and I'm not tech savvy, so that's my next thing to lift my game on. But I'm Nichole Hamilton on Facebook, and that's Nichole spelled Nichole. I also have Children's Safe Space on Facebook, which is the business side of it, and I'm also on Insta, so just Nichole Hamilton on Insta.
It's generally beautiful stuff. Nichole Hamilton.
Nichole, yes, remember that.
Nichole, and if you want to get deep in the Nichole, then I hope you've enjoyed this episode, guys. I've tremendously enjoyed talking to you today, Nichole, and really looking forward to catch you up again next week. Off camera, just to talk about your business. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be so good, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's only my second ever podcast, so I just can't wait to share this message with more people. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have so much gratitude for it.
Well, my 7 listeners are also very grateful as well. So,
7, excellent. Well, it's better than none. Better than none, right?
Absolutely. Some clips, we clip the episodes up into little videos, and some of them just go nuts. Some of them just get, heaps and heaps more engagement than others. And I think it's the ones that people can really relate to. And so I think the parents out there, the parenting side of me really related to a lot of the things you've said. And it's kind of, it tweaks a nerve so much more than just talking about business, which is really cool.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on. And thank you, anyone who's watching live or listening to the recording. I'll be back next week with another episode of Coaches to the Moon. Until then, thanks for listening. Much